Have you ever felt invisible in your own family, even though you gave them everything? Yesterday, I got a call from my brother. His words still haunt me. He said, "Mom died last night. I inherited everything. You get nothing." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just smiled. Do you know why I smiled? What I did next changed everything. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted most? Stay with me, because what happened next will shock you and maybe even make you rethink your own family. The morning started like any other, with the soft glow of sunlight filtering through the curtains. I sat by the window, nursing my thoughts and a cup of lukewarm tea. Life had always taught me patience, the quiet kind, the one that doesn't shout but waits, observes, and endures. Then, the phone rang. His voice came through, cold and deliberate, like he had rehearsed it 1,000 times. "Mom died last night," he said. There was no pause, no hint of grief, no hesitation, only the words, sharp and cutting, like a knife. And then he added, almost proudly, "I inherited everything. You get nothing." I felt my heart pause, not from surprise, but from a familiar ache that had been building quietly over the years. There had always been a difference, the visible and the invisible, the convenient love, the love that comes only when it suits someone. For a moment, I said nothing. I could feel him expecting tears, expecting anger, expecting me to break. But I didn't, because I already knew something he didn't. I had been the one who stayed, the one who held the phone through sleepless nights, who held hands when life hurt the most, who washed dishes, folded laundry, whispered prayers when no one was watching. I had been the quiet strength that held the family together, the shadow behind every smile, the unsung devotion that never sought recognition. And yet, here he was, claiming everything, the papers, the wealth, the attention, as if all that I had given, all that I had sacrificed, meant nothing. I could hear the silence on the other side of the line. Confusion? Surprise? Perhaps a hint of arrogance still lingering in his voice. He had expected me to react in fury or despair. Instead, I smiled. It was not a triumphant smile. It was not gloating. It was calm, measured, quiet. A smile that came from a place deeper than anger or revenge. A smile that belonged to someone who knew their own worth. Someone who understood that love and dignity were not counted on paper, and that patience, when used wisely, could outlast greed. And as I put down the phone, I whispered to myself, almost as if reassuring the universe, some things are never lost, not to those who truly understand their value. Days passed quietly, yet the air felt heavier than ever. The house seemed emptier without her presence, the echo of her laughter replaced by a cold silence that settled into every corner. I moved through the rooms like a ghost, each step a reminder of the life that had once been, the love that had once anchored us. I thought about the years I had given, years of unseen work, of quiet devotion. The nights I stayed awake by her side, holding her hand through pain, whispering words she barely heard, but needed nonetheless. The mornings I rose before anyone else, preparing meals, tidying the rooms, ensuring the house ran smoothly while the world slept. He never saw these moments. He only arrived when it was convenient, only appeared when recognition could be claimed. And now, after her death, he took it all: papers signed, possessions claimed, the tangible evidence of a life he barely lived. It would have been easy to feel anger, to scream, to confront him. But anger has a fleeting voice. It passes quickly, leaving emptiness in its wake. I had learned long ago that silence could be louder than shouts. Quiet patience could teach lessons that fury never could. Every evening, I sat by the window, letting the sunlight fall on my hands as they rested in my lap. The world outside carried on, oblivious to the storm within these walls. And yet, I felt a subtle strength growing, a reminder that love is not measured by possessions or recognition. It is measured by the care, the consistency, and the unwavering commitment we give when no one is watching. One afternoon, a thought struck me with surprising clarity. The letters, the documents, the signatures, they represented material things, but they could never capture the devotion, the sacrifices, the countless invisible acts that had kept our family together. That strength was mine. That legacy was mine. And so, I continued quietly, doing what I had always done. But behind the calm, a fire had been lit, It was not a fire of revenge, but of justice, patience, and dignity. A fire that would, in its own way, speak louder than any papers ever could. I realized then that some victories are not immediate. They unfold over time, carefully, deliberately, like the rising sun after a long night. And when they do, the world cannot ignore them. Because the strongest legacy is not what is inherited, but what is lived and what is given with the purest heart. The week that followed was quiet on the surface, but inside, every heartbeat carried the weight of unspoken truths. I went about my days as before, performing small tasks, keeping the house in order, but beneath the calm, I felt a shift. Something unseen had begun to move quietly, deliberately. Then the call came, not to me, to him. He answered with his usual arrogance, expecting the world to bend to his entitlement. But as the conversation unfolded, the confidence in his voice began to crack. His words, once sharp and certain, now wavered. Confusion, fear, realization, emotions he had never allowed himself to feel crept in. It was a simple message from a lawyer, a detail overlooked, a note tucked away, a testament not of anger but of wisdom and foresight. My mother had left behind more than just papers. She had left clarity, evidence of care, and the quiet recognition of who had truly been there when it mattered most. He listened, his smirk fading, replaced by disbelief. He had counted on possession, on appearances, on signed documents, but he had ignored the years of unseen devotion, the quiet presence, the unheralded love that no papers could ever capture. I watched from the doorway, calm, composed, a faint smile playing at my lips. I did not gloat. I did not mock. I merely let the moment unfold, knowing that life itself had spoken justice in a way that no words could. For him, it was shocking. For me, it was a confirmation. The strength I had nurtured, the patience I had preserved, the dignity I had maintained, all of it mattered. It had always mattered. And now, silently, it spoke louder than any inheritance, louder than any claim, louder than greed itself. As he hung up, a heavy silence filled the room. He sat in disbelief, realizing that what he thought he had won was never his to claim. Some lessons, it seems, are learned only when the heart sees what the eyes cannot. I returned to my chair by the window, letting the afternoon sun warm my face. Peace settled over me like a gentle blanket. Some victories are not loud. They are quiet. They are deliberate. They are just. And the ones that come from patience and love last forever. The days that followed were quieter, but they carried a different kind of weight, a weight that felt lighter, gentler, and more enduring. The house, once filled with tension and unspoken words, now held a sense of calm. The storm had passed, though its echoes lingered softly, like a memory one could neither forget nor hold onto too tightly. I continued my daily routines, not out of duty, but out of the rhythm of life I had built over decades. Cooking, tending to the garden, folding laundry, sipping tea by the window, I did it all with a sense of quiet contentment. I saw him only occasionally. Each encounter was brief, awkward, filled with the unspoken understanding that some lessons are learned too late. He had believed that inheritance, wealth, and possession defined the outcome, but life had taught him differently. There are victories that no money can buy, lessons that no signature can document. And I had inherited something far more enduring than any material possession: strength, patience, love, the knowledge that dignity, quietly preserved, can withstand betrayal, greed, and arrogance. Sitting in the warm sunlight one afternoon, I allowed myself a small smile, not of triumph over him, but of gratitude for the life I had lived, the care I had given, and the truth that had always been mine. The years of silent devotion, the countless unnoticed acts of love, had spoken louder than any document ever could. In that quiet moment, I realized the greatest lessons are often invisible. They cannot be held, signed, or counted. They exist in the way we care, in the patience we nurture, in the strength we preserve when no one is watching. And as the sun dipped low, casting a golden glow across the room, I whispered softly to the universe, "Some inherit money, others inherit wisdom, patience, and strength, and that lasts forever." Because at the end of the day, life's true inheritance is not measured by what is claimed, but by what is given quietly, selflessly, and with a full heart.